Advanced Math, Set 105, Cofactors and Expansion by Cofactors. So we're going to be looking at matrices again and talking about determinants. So if you have a matrix that looks like the one on the top and you're trying to find the determinant, what it's going to look like is the bottom, where you have a sub 1 times the determinant that is shown minus a sub 2 times the determinant shown plus a sub 3 times the determinant shown. And we were going to go through step by step to show how we get that. So the first thing I'm going to do is just write out the original determinant or matrix 3 times so that you can see where I'm getting it from. And then we're going to just go ahead and cross out, and we're going to cross out starting at a sub 1, and then we're going to cross out starting at a sub 2, and then we'll cross out at a sub 3. So in the first determinant, a sub 1 is where the cross is, the second one is a sub 2, and the third one is a sub 3. Now, if you notice, what's not crossed out now is what is called the minor, and that is what is written in the determinant below. So on the 3 smaller determinants that are on the bottom row is what the blue square is circling. Okay, and then the a sub 1, the a sub 2, and the a sub 3, you can see where they came from. It's what got crossed out. And then the last thing is the signs. And the way that you determine the signs is you have a matrix that is always going to be the same. It always starts with a plus sign in the upper left corner, and it goes in a checkerboard pattern. So it's always plus, minus, plus, and so on and so on. So when we're talking about a sub 1, when we're talking about a sub 1, it's that top left corner, so it's positive. A sub 2 is that middle on the left column, and that would be a negative sign, and the a sub 3 is positive on, it's that first column on the bottom. So that's where those signs come from, positive, negative, and positive. We'll do some examples so that it makes sense. Just to go over the terminology again, when you cross out the row and the column of an entry, the smaller determinant that results is called the minor. And then when the proper sign is added to the minor, the combination is called the cofactor of the element. So the cofactor is the determinant with the sign, essentially. So find the cofactor of 7 in the following determinant. So we're going to cross out where 7 is. We're going to cross out the row and the column and do our signs. We start with positive in the upper left hand and go in a checkerboard sign, plus, minus, plus. So 7 is negative. So we know it's going to be negative, and then just do the minor, which is the determinant that's left over, which is 2, 2, 6, 5. And that's your cofactor. So now we're going to talk about expansion by cofactors, which is that very first thing that we looked at. We find the value of a determinant can be found by summing the products of the elements in any row or column with their respective cofactors. So essentially what it's going to look like is you've got the element, the sign, and the minor, and then add that to the element, the sign, the minor, and the element, the sign, the minor. So you've got 3 things, and then essentially you're doing the element times the cofactor, because the sign and the minor is the cofactor. Okay, so we'll do an example. Use cofactors to evaluate this determinant. So when you're evaluating determinants and you're using cofactors, you can use any row or any column that you want. We're just going to use the bottom row just so that we can see. So we'll start out by writing the matrix 3 times. And I'm going to cross out the bottom row every time, but then move over for each column. So bottom row first column, bottom row second column, bottom row last column. And then we start writing. So we've got -1, and then we have the sign. So remember we have to do plus, minus, plus, and it goes in a checkerboard pattern, so we know that that bottom left corner is going to be positive. And then we write the determinant that's not crossed out, so it's going to be 2, 1, 3, negative 2, going from left to right. So now we go on to our second part. The 2 is crossed out, so that's what we're using. We find the sign, so it's we know that second column is going to be minus, plus, minus, so the 2 is going to have a negative sign, and then we write our determinant that's left over, the minor, which is negative 4, 1, 1, negative 2. And then lastly, we have a negative 3. The sign is going to be positive, and then we write the minor, the determinant, which is negative 4, 2, 1, and 3. So now we just have to do arithmetic to solve this. So we have negative 1, and then the determinant, 2 times negative 2 minus 3 times 1. And then since 2 is times a negative number, it's negative 2 times the determinant, which is negative 4 times negative 2 minus 1 times 1. And then negative 3 times negative 4 times 3 minus 2 times 1. From here we just solve. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 minus 3 times 1, which is 3. So we're left with negative 1 times negative 7. And then over on the right, negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8 minus 1. So we get negative 2 times 7. And then on the right, negative 3. And then we have negative 12 minus 2, which is negative 14. So negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7, negative 2 times 7 is negative 14, and negative 3 times negative 14 is positive 42. Now I'm going up because I ran out of space, so up to the upper right, we have 7 minus 14 plus 42 gives us 35 for the answer. So the determinant of the entire matrix is 35, and we did it by expansion of cofactors. Okay, let's do another example. Use cofactors to evaluate. So we're going to do the bottom row again. And primarily the reason why we're going to use the bottom row is because it has a 0 in it. And as you'll see, zeros make it nice and easy to figure. So using the bottom row again, we're going to cross out the first column, then the second column, and then the third column. So we have 0, which is a plus sign, and then the determinant, which is 1, negative 3, 2, negative 4, and then 4, and then the determinant, or then the sign, which is going to be negative, because again, you just start in the upper left-hand corner with a plus sign and go checkerboard to find that it's a negative, and then we're left with negative 3, 2, 2, negative 4, and then the last one, negative 5, it's going to be positive, and we have negative 3, 1, 2, negative 3. So 0 is going to be the first term because 0 times anything is 0. Then we have negative 4 times the determinant. So negative 3 times negative 4 is 12 minus 2 times 2, which is 4. And then plus negative 5. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. So 9 minus 2. So we're left with 12 minus 4 is 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. 9 minus 2 is 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Negative 32 minus 35 is negative 67. We'll do one more example. Use cofactors to evaluate. So this time instead of using the bottom row, we'll use the third column. So, and again, notice the third column has a 0 in it. So without writing it out,